welcome everybody to Gems from the Wisdom Traditions, a conversation circle that is put on every Saturday by Still and Moving Center, in which we take up topics from our Still and Moving Center almanac. We have a running set of topics called the Buddhist paramitas, and the paramitas are the virtues. And these virtues are really so universal that we don't always look at them from the Buddhist perspective. So even though this week the virtue that we're taking up is that of patience, instead of looking at it from a Buddhist perspective, as long as we have somebody from the Hawaiian perspective who is so well versed in it and such an exemplar of patience, it seems so appropriate to instead have our dear Kumuhula, Malia Helela, give this presentation today. I feel confident that all of you online with us know Malia, but just for posterity's sake, I would like to say that she is the Kumuhula that presides over everything Hawaiian at Still and Moving Center and has since before our opening. She began one of the Hawaiian practices, that of Lomi Lomi massage, from the time she can first remember as a tiny child. And the practice of hula, she started when she was about 8 years old. She has since delved into many, many Hawaiian cultural practices. And we are blessed and also very appreciative of having her with us today. Malia.
Mahalo nui. Aloha, everybody. Joining you from Mom's house. It's quite a breezy day here in Kaimuki, so I apologize if the wind is ever a little bit too loud. I'd like to begin today hand in hand with Mom. We're going to do the Aloha chant. I think sent out in all of the emails was an excerpt from this chant that was utilized by the state of Hawaii in the Hawaii Revised Statutes, the Aloha Spirit Law. And so this is the chant commonly known as the Aloha chant. Akahai pa. Akahai e na Hawaii, lo kahia kulike, olu olu kamana o, ha'a ko kulana, aho nui alana kila. Aloha e, aloha e, aloha e. Aloha mai kako, aloha everybody. Today I will be just sharing a little bit about this idea of patience. And so before I say anything, let's just sit for one moment with the word patience, because I'm sure we all have our stories connected to this word. So in your mind, just say patience, patience, and just let it register in the body. See if you have any reaction to this word patience. I found that when I first started thinking about it, I actually felt a little bit tense, like, oh, I have to wait for something. It had this kind of connotation of sacrifice. And so as I started really delving into the idea of patience from a Hawaiian perspective, I was reassured and reinvigorated with this idea that patience really is not just a virtue, it really is a gift. And so I'm going to start today actually here with the word ho'o manawa nui. And in the Hawaiian language dictionary, when you see these periods kind of blocking in between words or separating thoughts in a word, it just helps to bring the meaning a little bit more clearly forward. And so ho'o is the act of doing something, manawa is time, and nui is great or long or, just big. And so to have plenty of time feels differently than just patience as this sacrifice that you have to hold back on something. And so here are just a few of the translations in the Hawaiian language dictionary for ho'o manawa nui. Patience, steadfastness, fortitude. To have patience and fortitude, to be patient, steadfast, courageous, and persevering. And I think it's so special that I'm able to join you today at the hand of my mother, whose name Kupa'a Wahine was given to her by our kumuhula. Kupa'a means steadfast. And so there's a similar feeling to the steadfastness that my kumu recognized in mom, and this idea of patience, of having a lot of time. I think of it as giving ourselves space. And doesn't that feel a little bit different? Now, one thing that I think about often and have since I was in high school is the role of a long-term relationship. I had been going to Kauai to participate in a festival up in the mountains of Kokee from when I was 10 years old. I was 10, I was 11, I was 12, I was 13, I was 14, 15, all the way through my 30s, actually even into my 40s. And so even as a young girl, I recognized that because we would go again and again over the course of years, not only did I recognize people and places, but I got to be in a position where people would recognize me and say, "Oh wow, Malia, you've really grown." And it just really had an impact on me, realizing that relationships sometimes take years and years and years to grow. And so one thing I thought we could all reflect on is, what are the gifts of a long-term relationship? And I think I can very easily speak from my experience at Still and Moving Center. I've had a 13-year, going on 14-year relationship with Still and Moving Center, with Renée, with so many of you. And it's only because of that time, that long arc of perspective, that I feel like I can really appreciate. And I will probably appreciate more in 20 years. But just let's consider, what are the gifts of having this long span of time to get to know a place or a person or a thing, just to develop that relationship. Now, I want to share another couple of words with you. There are two, aho nui and aho loa. And so the word that precedes both, aho, means accord. It also means breath, as you can see here in this literal translation. But to have this great long cord, and now we're moving from relationship and emotions maybe into actual tools, and what do you do and perform work with. And so maybe aho nui, having that long breath, that ability to be long-suffering, to tolerate. That's another shade of patience, being able to tolerate and endure. But aho loa specifically speaks to having a long cord, both for fishing, but also for kites. And does everybody know that there is a very, very celebrated tradition of kites in Hawaii? Maui flew kites. And in fact, in Waikiki, so if you can see the background of Loan's picture, she's got a picture of Waikiki. There was a very famous heiau in Waikiki where during the surfing season, oh, thank you, there we go, that's it. But when the surf was good, the priests of the temple would fly a kite, and the shape of the kite actually showed the surfing conditions. And so that the people far away in their fields, whether they were farming or whatever they were doing, they had the choice, and it's been written about, that they would leave their tools in the field and go surfing. And so when we have that long cord, we have that long reach, we can actually reach a lot more people. If we had just a short little kite string, we could only signal the few people that could see. But the longer that kite could fly, more people could see it, and I think another gift of having that long reach. Now with fishing line, there is an olelo no'eau about having the short line and the long line, and you can only catch a big fish with the long line. And I think there's something very easy to grasp about, if you only take the time to make a short cord, you can only catch the fish that are nearby. But if you have the time and the forbearance to be able to, can you tie that for me, please? Good thing I have mom. But if you have the time and the forbearance to craft your cord nice and long, then you have that ability to cast far and possibly land a great big fish. And so having the right tools play a really important role in having our reach. Now, I think the more subtle side of this is that I don't think we necessarily need to only think about having great forbearance and endurance to craft a long cord. I think there is also value in crafting these shorter cords because maybe you want something from the reef. Maybe there's a different need that you're serving from a shorter cord. But I think we can all agree that the opportunity for that larger catch is only possible when we can craft that long cord. All right, I have one more slide for all of you. Oh, just a quick describe the scene here. These are 5 of my graduates, 5 of my hula students, and they crafted their drums using cordage. And so even though you were to look at the drum or a fishnet even and see all of the lashing, you may or may not realize that's one cord that's making up all of the lashing and all of the different pieces of that tool. Okay, so this next phrase, ikamanava kupono, means to be in the right and proper timing. And I feel like something like this is very near and dear to Still and Moving Center. I think I heard the idea of natural timing through Nia, through the practice of Nia, where we can learn to move within our own body's natural timing, finding natural timing within our lives and our projects and our work. And so Ikamanava Kupono, I think, takes time and the ability to navigate time through our patience and forbearance and endurance and stretch that time a bit wider to recognize that maybe we just need to wait for the right timing, that we may not have to wait forever. We just need to wait until all of the conditions are right. And if we go back here to Ho'o Manava Nui, Manava, time, vast. Nui is big and great and vast. If we can stretch our spaces and our times, we may find that it's not such a trial, it's not such an effort to wait for the right time because we understand that there is a cycle to time. And from the Hawaiian tradition, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the calendar, that within our timekeeping practices, Hawaiians followed the moon. We followed the moon and recognized that at different phases of the moon, we would do different things. Even certain fish or plants would have different things available at different phases of the moon. And so to me, if I know that I'm going to be gathering a certain herb for medicine just after the full moon, I don't have to suffer in my heart with waiting for something that's not even going to be available. I can just file that information and say, okay, in the right timing, then I will go and harvest. In the meantime, I will find some other thing to do. I'll find another alternative if I need medicine. I'll find something that I've already harvested, or I'll seek a relationship with somebody that might be able to trade. But I think that there can be this inference of suffering attached to patience, and I don't feel like that's only a small part of the picture. And so, as kind of a closing thought, I wanted to share just one instance from my life where I was made to wait. It was a difficult thing. I was training in hula. In hula, we have different levels of graduation. If you do any martial art, similar idea with belts, where you train, you show your skill, and you're elevated, you're graduated to a different rank. And so for hula, that would be first as a dancer, and then as a ho'opa'a, a chanter, and a drummer would be the next level, and then the final levels would be as a kumuhula. I had been training to be a ho'opa'a, which is the chanter and the drummer. I had gone through a ceremony where we had gone to Kauai in a traditional sense. I gave my leis, which is part of the ceremony. You give your leis to the aina, signifying that you're leaving your past behind, emerging as this new thing. We had a public ho'ike where members of the community were welcome to come and witness us as graduates. And it was after that, my kumu, she just decided and she understood that I actually wasn't ready for that rank. And we sat together side by side on her piano bench and we both cried. You know, we cried because she knew that I wasn't ready and I kind of knew I wasn't ready too. And it was something that I had to endure and bear, this disappointment of, oh, wow, like I've had this thing revoked. And if I had just quit then, that would have been the immature, like the premature end of a beautiful story. I stuck with it. I accepted that no, and I just continued to study, and years later, not many years, maybe 5 or 6 years later, I did graduate as a kumuhula. So it took that long relationship that I mentioned in the beginning of my talk, this understanding that things sometimes do take a long period of time. And that was just one instance in my life where a really, really big setback, given a chance to unfold, did result in a really beautiful relationship with my kumu. And in the proper timing, I did achieve ultimately the rank of kumuhula. And so I would like to share one more oli, and I know a couple of you here know it. I'm sorry I can't unmute you, but you're welcome to chant along in the background with this idea of kamanava kupono in the proper timing. I would like to share one chant for medicine. And so this chant, you can see all of the pictures around, are showing different stages of growth in the lehua, which is Metrosidros polymorpha. It's a native Hawaiian plant. It means the iron heart with many, many forms. And to me, this is a chant that shows how there are so many unfolding stages of growth. And to me, if I know that I need some seeds here, I can understand that there's going to be some time for the plant to grow and the flowers to blossom and the fruit to emerge. This all is going to happen before the seeds can come. And so I feel like once we have the sense of, in the proper timing, that there are ages and stages, that we can expand our sense of manava, time, to be manava nui, to be great and vast, then maybe patience becomes a natural thing. And so I offer this to you as medicine, further medicine. This is a prayer of gathering. And so now that I've showed you the pictures of the plants, I'm going to bring the words bigger. And we're going to take that off. And so you're welcome to follow along and chant along if you are so moved. So this is Ohi Ana E La'au. I hele mai ne awe noia oe ke aku I la'au o lai kukino I ulu iluna I ku iluna I lala iluna I liko iluna I opu iluna I mohala iluna I pua iluna I hua o iluna I pala iluna O ke ola o kala'aua ke akua no kukino Amama ua no ai. And 2 claps to close. All right, friends, I think we have quite a broad space for discussion today. Broad, long relationships and the gifts of that. Any times where you have been made to wait and the gifts of what has unfolded. So we will open the floor, but thank you so much, everybody, for listening.
So as I'm interpreting what you're saying, Lily, I wonder if I get this right. Part of the virtue of patience, of waiting, is that it bestows gifts. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I saw Luan. I don't know if you was that clapping hands or raising hand. But thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's my style in class to actually call people. But I love this space here of, electing. So, I see David with his hand up. Aloha, David.
Aloha, Malia. Thank you so much for your beautiful presentation as always. And when you asked us to close our eyes and just hear the vibration of patience, what immediately came to mind for me was trust. And I started thinking about how trust and patience are so closely related. We have to trust in the outcome in order to be patient. And with patience, we can build trust. And they're so interlocked. Yeah, that was my thought.
That's absolutely stunning. Thank you. I saw lots of people nodding heads. What a beautiful thing to consider. Thank you. Thank you. I see Diana.
Yeah,
Aloha.
I want to expand on what you said, David, because I've been working a lot with patience. It seems to be coming up for me. And I realize that when I'm trying to do my ego 3D will, then I am not having patience. I want it yesterday, or I want it on the way it's supposed to look, or it's supposed to be healed, or whatever. And it really does take, for me, faith and trust in divine timing and divine guidance for me to surrender and really trust timing. It's like, I don't know the best timing. We miss a flight and the plane didn't go down. We don't know what happens and why. And so it's like living with that faith and trust. And really, for me, it's meditating and praying a lot and asking for guidance of what the timing means for me and what I'm supposed to do. And even with other people or with what's going on in the world, I want it healed yesterday, and it's not happening that way. And so it's like really having faith and trust. And I've been working with everything is for our highest good. And we don't understand sometimes when we have to wait, or it's not turning out the way that we want, that it isn't my will or my plan or my wisdom. It's, for me, it's surrendering to divine's timing and divine, the purpose. We don't understand. We know this much about why things happen, and there's this whole range. And I think it really is, for me, it's surrendering and having faith and trust in divine wisdoming and timing that I'm going to be guided, and so is the world. And I really, part of what I work with is everything is for our highest good. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't feel like it. And I can't imagine that the kind of pain and suffering that people have is for their highest good, but there's something that I rest, and my practice is to rest in that and to really have patience and not go with what my ego wants, but really surrender. So that's, David, that's what came up for me when you said that. Thank you. And I loved your talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And Carolyn, we'll get to you in just a moment. That brought to thought. So, are all of you familiar with mele kahea? These are chants asking permission to enter. So it's a traditional chant. Many students will chant outside the door to their kumu, asking permission to enter into the space. I would chant permission to enter the forest before going into the forest. And I was part of I was listening to a discussion today about one of the most commonly done mele kahea that comes from the epic tale of Pele and Hi'iaka, the fire goddess and her sister who brings life to the forest, or life of the forest back after a lava flow. And just a little short snippet, in the course of Hi'iaka's journeys in this epic legendary tale, she approaches a woman asking permission to enter. And in the legend, the woman says no. And so part of the discussion today was, why would all of the hula dancers, why would this be the most enduring chant asking permission to enter a place, when in the legend the answer was no? It's kind of a contradiction, but I think exactly what you were saying, Diana, that sometimes when we hear the no, we may not be able to understand what path comes. And that makes me think of Ganesha and the stories I've heard of Ganesha, where sometimes that obstacle is just what you need to go a different way. And so I think grasping the no and the wait and having patience is kind of a universal thing, right? So thank you so much. Carolyn, I saw your hands up, and then maybe Sheila after. Hi, Sheila.
You've half answered my question. These chants can be used for special purposes, like entering a meeting or a celebration, but do you use them first thing in the morning to kind of bless the day? Do you use them last thing at night? Do you use them, let's say, to nourish children? I was just wondering where and when you would be using these chants to bring healthy, an environment into a healthy, nourishing place.
That's beautiful. I would say yes and yes and yes again. All the chants they're prayers, and so any occasion that you can imagine doing a prayer or a mantra, or using intensive or intended language for any outcome, there are a chant for that. And just a short story, when my hula teacher was nearing the end of her life, she was hospitalized a few times, and I would catch the bus to Kaiser, and I would sit with her in her room and just keep her company. And I had noticed she was a very prayerful woman, a devoted woman of God. And so we started writing prayers. And when we started writing a prayer for her recovery, and I noticed she was getting a little bit small in her body, like, don't let me be alone to suffer, and she would make her body a little bit smaller. And I noticed just the impact of that language. And so I had an idea, well, why don't I can start maybe posing some ideas for prayers. And exactly what you said, we ended up writing a prayer for waking up in the morning. We wrote a prayer for going to sleep at night. We wrote a prayer for travel. We wrote a prayer for eating. We wrote a prayer for forgiveness. A lot of these different needs that we have, if there is not already a chant for it, then we can absolutely make one up. So I hope that answers your question. It's very broad.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And Luana, Sheila, aloha.
Aloha. Thank you again, Malia. And I saw the topic today, and I thought there's just so much more that I need to learn about all these beautiful Hawaiian traditions. And I knew you would, be the perfect teacher. So a simple recent example, when we were in Madrid, we had planned to take the train in the morning, and all of the Taylor Swift fans had booked all the trains that day. The first one we could get was 9:30 that night. And we were just, we wanted to get to Siena. In hindsight, we had the most beautiful day, being able to see the things we had missed already in Madrid. So yeah, I just thought, as soon as you were saying what you were saying, that was, what came to my mind.
Thank you for sharing. That's a gift. And one thing that I think about Sheila is often she'll take pictures and share pictures of rainbows. And from your apartment, right? I've seen pictures that you've taken of rainbows for a long span of time. And that's also building a relationship where you may not even consciously be aware of it, but the angle of the sun, you're probably getting your rainbows either in the afternoon When the sun's going down, I bet your soul is already looking for rainbows because you've grown accustomed to seeing them. And so thank you for sharing all of that with us too. All right, thoughts, anybody? Should we go to Mom? Any thoughts?
No, just that I have to have patience because where my house is situated, we're on a flight path for planes and helicopters. So patience, they will pass.
And have you noticed Mom moving her chair? It's because the sun keeps moving. Thank you, Mom. I love you. Any thoughts? Any thoughts? I know so many thoughts. But yes, Bob?
Well, so many ideas came up for me as we were all speaking. But your first question, when does patience arise for me in my practice? And part of my practice is koans. And koans are puzzles, things that you are meant to resolve, not necessarily solve. And the first koan often takes over a year to pass. And it's interesting because as you were talking about stages, that's exactly what makes you stuck in a koan is wanting to pass it. A recent koan that I came across was the master said, "What must I do to not fall into stages?" And the Arya said, "What have you done so far?" And the master said, "I haven't even been able to find the Four Noble Truths." And the Arya said, "Well, what stage is that?" And he said, "If you can't even understand the Four Noble Truths, if they're not possible, how could stages even exist?" And it's such a beautiful koan because it really talks about Buddha nature as not something you achieve. It's already there. You don't become a kumahulu, you are a kumahulu. And you're not waiting for something. The walk and the path is the walking of it, not getting somewhere and not someone doing it. It's just the walking. And so I found that very interesting. And the word for patience in Buddhism is constancy, a certain sense of being able to accept, as David said, with trust, with great faith, and possibly as a Brahma Vihara, equanimity or acceptance again. So I found those all very interesting. And when Diana was talking, it's interesting in Buddhism, the opposite of impatience, the way to deal with impatience is to meditate. Your immediately response is if you're impatient with your koan, you meditate. If you're impatient with the plane, you meditate, and then the plane and you are one. There's no outside noise. There just happens to be the noise of a plane happening. So I found so many different ideas that are related to Buddhism and koans. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That brings so many thoughts up. I find in many instances as a teacher, I find that I try to walk two paths, and I have twins, so I'm very acclimated to like working in duality or in maybe different versions of something. And as a teacher, I find that it is true, hula is life. Hula is a way of being. Sitting here with Mom, this is hula. Speaking to you is hula. And yet there is a process of learning your steps, learning the language, learning the choreography, learning to choreograph. And there are almost these different aspects of walking through time, both being enveloped in it and being one with it, and also going through those stages. I love that there's room in the world for both. But thank you so much for sharing. Vaipunanani, thank you for raising your hand. I had actually pegged you as the next person I was going to call on. Aloha no, aloha. I'm going to click a button. Do you see that to unmute?
Hey, oi.
Mai
E
tai, aloha.
Ah, aloha Malia. Aloha Mary. Aloha I kanaka au pau. E Patience is right up my alley. There's a verse that I say in English and I say in Hawaiian, and it is e noho maili. And I say that every morning in meditation because when I get up, you would like the day to go perfect, but it doesn't sometimes. So, for instance, you're driving in a car, somebody cuts you off, you go inside, you get your groceries, and somebody is taking long. So I know for me, that's the one verse that I say. So when I'm in the line or somebody cuts me or flips me off, I have to do that verse, a mantra for me. And I learned this from my Buddhist friends, and I learned it from my Christian friends, to say this one verse all the time. So my thing is, I know I'm patient. I try and hope that if a situation comes up, I will be more patient and my tongue won't go off. So patience is sometimes becomes hard when something is really difficult, and I wake up and I just go with it on that day. So summarizing up what I said, I say that verse over and over, and I can see the word patience in big highlighted letters, neon, saying patience, patience. So that's what I do every day, and then I can go on. So mahalo nui loa e olelo e Hawaii e English. Aloha wau ia oi to you all. Let's see.
Can I ask, is that translation for the mantra you use, is that patience?
Yeah. Oh, e kala mai, e noho maili is a type of saying, be quiet. And what my kapunas would teach me would say, it's a part of that word patient. Because when I learned it, e noho maili is, I know when I was in church or doing a meditation with my friends, the first word they would say is, e noho maili, be quiet. So you can listen to what I'm saying to you, Waipunanani. So yes, it means patience, or my kahu would say, e noho maili, be quiet, listen to me, and you will hear what the great divine is trying to tell you. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Nanani?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, so I typed it in the chat. Enoho malie. Noho is to sit or to reside or to dwell. Malie is calm. Or was it noho maila?
I've heard both ways, e noho maili or e noho malia, e kahi. And it's depending on which kupuna I'm talking to and which one's going to correct me. So I've heard it both ways. And then when I say kupunas, they're older than me. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I've come across a few that stop me, and I listen, talk about patience. Sometimes I feel like sometimes I know I'm the student, and I need to listen if they add more to patience. And by God, I do get a lot more. Yes, I do.
Oh, mahalo nui. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I missed some of what you saw. I noticed we've made a little scene change here. But I appreciate your sharing. Thank you so much. Malie, to be calm, to be at peace, to be, restful.
Quiet,
Yeah, to be quiet.
to be quiet,
My name
or
Malia.
sit still.
Yeah, sit still. Malia, Malia can be a variation of that.
Be calm.
Be calm. Yes.
Yeah.
In this case,
Mahalo
Maria,
nui.
do you actually raise the level of your voice? Do you have a way?
Oh, for me?
Yes.
All right.
It's
Let
a
me
little bit.
figure that out. Well, I see Loan has her hand raised, and I'll see if I can figure out the sound.
Thank you.
Yeah, aloha everyone. Thank you for offering me this chance to share my story to you today. Actually, I was kind of hesitant to participate in this kind of class. This is my first time, and I checked that today's subject is patient. Oh, I see it's patient is my favorite word. That's why I'd like to attend the section today. So why it is my favorite word? Because I find it very useful and valuable, and I apply it in all kind of area in my life. Not only patience, but I find it so well with flexibility. Patience and flexibilities. I always share with my friends, especially those who are not much patient or impatient. I just always inspire and encourage them to overcome with their trouble by be calm, be patient. Be patient. You are getting there, for example. So another word I'd like to share similar to patience is resilience. Resilience. So going to in details is why it's in my favorite word, because I find it's worked for me very well. Like in family, how to educate my children. It's not easy. Just tell them one time, they listen to me. I have to be patient. Patience. Anytime I'm not patient, I just apply my yoga method and like take a deep breath. And then, okay, I think I can take it. I can find a way to do what I want. And I always think about my goal. If I'm not there, I always think I'm getting there. I have to be patient. Then it works out well for me, not only in the family situation, relationship, collaboration with people around different stakeholders in my job, or with my friends, all kind of area in life, we need patience. And I really appreciate the patience. And I always share with my friends, patience and flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing the word resilience forward. So resilience can be interpreted as the body's ability to come back after an injury. And I know that in recent years, it's been used to describe emotions, that we can be emotionally resilient. It's the ability to come back from hardship. And I think going all the way back to David and what he said about patience and trust, if we can trust in our innate ability to heal, that even though we might be struggling, we might be suffering, we might be enduring, that if we have faith and trust that we will come back, that we will heal, that things will get better. I think that maybe those challenges are a little bit easier to bear. Yeah, having that faith in resilience, the ability to come back. So thank you, Luan. Let's see. Lahi's looking to the side like, no, Kumu, don't look at me. Just if there's anything you'd like to add, Lahi. You don't have to, but you're welcome.
Yeah, I really appreciated your story because, it's a similar to a situation that I'm in now where, I want to achieve a different level, but these obstacles, they feel like obstacles, but it's just bottom line, they're just not happening, right? So this idea that, you know, it's not just you kind of going through it, people are with you as well. And sometimes it's painful for them too, just to recognize the moment as it is. So, and just to remember that, you know, we're all trying our best and it'll happen in time. So that story was really relatable to me.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Mahalo nui, everybody. Well.
I just want to say thank you for that. Like Loida said, that was incredible story, and it just made me think that has being young, patience is not something that we have. Like Long was saying, like dealing with kids, like you want to get things done now, you want to do it all now, and the older I get, the more I realize this patience is a virtue, and I guess it's come from experience, right, from living and then seeing the result. Oh, this happened for me to be able to be here and there. So I love this idea that patience is a gift, is not a challenge. Because I think for a long time I look at it like it's a challenge. This is so challenging. Why can I get the coach right or the dance right or get this right? And I think the biggest act of patience I've been through in my life, I was 16 years old and I was in Cuba, and my family have to leave because we have to shape a better future. So I spent 4 years in Cuba, not knowing when I was going to be able to live without my family by myself. And for a long time, I cling into it, trying to make things happen. And it was when I released control and I decided to trust and really, really be patient that everything happens so fast. But yeah, I think it's a very beautiful, interesting concept. Everything in life requires patience. But thank you for this idea that it's a gift and not a challenge.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful. And a very wise person told me, honey, it's not pain, it's perspective. Sometimes that time, it just gives us what we need to appreciate something a little bit deeper, a little bit better. Thank you for sharing. And David, aloha.
Thank you, Sharoni. You reminded me, one of the other thoughts that came up initially about trust is this idea when we set an intention for an outcome, is we set it and we let it go. Because to obsess on it is really kind of like the Buddha said, worrying is like praying for something you don't want to happen. So if we really trust, we can surrender and know that in its own time, it will arrive in its own natural timing. And so that idea of just praying, intending, whatever your word is for that, and then letting it go and letting God, letting Spirit deliver in her own good time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mahalo nui.
I have a feeling that Michael might have something to share with us. Is that true, Michael?
Well, I've just been enjoying listening to all these wise people, everybody with a slightly different perspective. But yes, I don't think you can talk about patience without talking about trust and faith and surrender, as people have been saying. Getting beyond your little ideas and letting go to what happens, to what is the proper thing to happen, to Pono, to what is right for the moment. And that's trust and that's surrender.
That's beautiful. Thank you for bringing the word surrender into our discussion today. That's beautiful. Thank you.
So, Malia, what advice might you have for somebody who feels as if they just can't wait? They just have to have it now.
Mhm.
And, saying, oh, well, just trust in the universe might not, not quite do the trick for them in that circumstance.
That's a really great question. Two things come to mind, and they all have to do with just perspective. Actually, what Bob said about the koan reminded me of something I read when I was a teenager, and it's My Life in 5 Chapters. Chapter 1, I'm walking down the street, I fall into a hole, and I feel like I'm never going to get out. Chapter 2, I'm walking down the street, I fall in the hole, it takes me forever to get out. Chapter 3, I'm walking down the street, I fall into the hole, and I jump right out. Chapter 4, I'm walking down the street, I see the hole, I jump over it. And then chapter 5, I take another street. So maybe we just need to have that perspective with what we feel like we need in the moment. There might actually be another street, another path, another way to find what we need. And then the other thing is really the only sermon I remember from when I was a kid, sitting in church. This is St. Anthony's Catholic Church in Kailua. And it was that God only ever has one of 3 answers for you. 1 is yes, 1 is no, and 3 is wait.
Later.
Yeah, I remember wait. Mom says later. And so that might even be the answer. If you want it so bad and you're not getting it, maybe the answer is just not yet. I don't know how that ranks in terms of advice.
Seems good to me.
Just sometimes having a different way of looking at something can be helpful.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. How about other people? Do you have suggestions about how to help cultivate patience?
Lots of prayer and surrendering and letting go.
But just simple silence. We forget that it's really simple to slip into silence, and it does a lot of good.
I think that's the point of meditation too, is when you're impatient, you can go to the silence. And then I liked what was recently said about surrendering, but also pono, to wait. What are you waiting for? Well, you're waiting for that which is right. In koan practice, you're not waiting for some idea, because that is never the response, or some feeling. You're really waiting for a resonance where suddenly it just feels somehow right. It resonates with you, not as a feeling per se or as an idea per se, but just as that kind of rightness. So I think part of the response is sort of accepting that there is a pono way of being in the world. There is a resonance with the world.
Absolutely. And I think this is the start of a whole nother long conversation for another day. I think about ways of knowing and cultivating ways of knowing. So I mentioned the Oli Kahea, that chant asking permission to enter. Sometimes if I'm in the forest and I'm chanting for permission to enter, it might be pretty easy for me to think, okay, I chanted, I can go. And yet this practice of pausing and sensing, like, do I feel welcomed, or do I sense that this is not a place for me? And I think even within having patience, if we want something so badly, to have the time, maybe it's through silence or through meditation, to really sense, is this really what I want? Like, why do I want this? Maybe there's something else here. But just cultivating ways of knowing and seeking out, maybe that sense of agitation and frustration is a sign that that's not meant to be. Maybe that we can seek out avenues or solutions or ideas that allow us to feel open, to feel a sense of rightness, to feel a sense of possibility and rightness, that pono, that kupono, in its proper timing. Yeah, in its proper timing. And I think it does fall to each one of us individually to cultivate the ability to sense which one is right. Are we drawn to? Are we being told actually we need to wait and this is a good thing? It's a whole nother conversation for another day. I just want to briefly just say aloha to La'iku, who's joining us, to Noah and to Adela Le Papahi. Just much aloha. Thank you so much for joining today. We may have one last moment. No pressure, but if you want to say a word, this would be the time. Otherwise, smile. That's perfect.
I just want to say real quick, Renee, to your question, because it got me thinking, because I asked myself that too. What can I do to deal better with patients, to manage it better? Good advice for myself. I think it's shifting the mindset. So instead of thinking what is not working, what's not happening, it's like what's going well. Gratitude, right? Right? Like what am I doing right now that's taking me there? So shifting that mindset, because there is this of letting go and surrendering, but you still need to keep going if you want to get somewhere. You got to find that different street, jumping over the hole. So just shifting the mindset to like gratitude, I guess helpful.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
Yeah. So responding Renee questions, how to deal or how to help those who are impatient. I think in order to help them or encourage them, we have to be patient first. Otherwise, forget about that. We have to be patient to help them out. Like talk to them, try to understand their issue, why they want something immediately. So we just cannot ignore and, oh, that guy, you cannot do something right away. If we really want to help them out, try to talk to them, listen to them, understand their issue. And then if you are in the position, you can help them out and help them to understand what they should be done first in order to reach out where they want to do it now. So it's just very principle I apply in my life, in my work, and in my family as well. Yeah, especially in my work, I talk to a lot of my customers who are impatient, so I have to be very patient. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Very true.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to ask someone to give Kumumalia a vote of thanks. And while you're considering whether you'd like to volunteer to do that, I'll tell you about the next couple weeks of gems from the wisdom traditions. Next week, we're going to take up the topic, actually in honor of the fact that this is the time of the zodiacal sign of Leo, the lion. We're going to take up the topic, fearless and lion-hearted. And the person doing that is named Monica Page. Most of us have not met her yet. She's a wonderful woman who will be tuning in from San Diego. And she's going to speak on the great theosophical teacher from the 1800s, Helena Blavatsky, and her really remarkably lion-hearted life. The next week, we'll have the idea of galaxies of enlightened beings. Cliff Tillotson is going to speak on that from the Taoist tradition. That's enough for now. Two things to look forward to. And I do want to ask if somebody would like to give a vote of thanks, or who would like to give a vote of thanks to Malia. And probably all of us want to, but who would like to be brave enough to put their hand up? Give that thank you. Carolyn, may I call on you to do that?
Okay, let's see. Yeah, my sound is on. Well, thank you very much. It was full of clarity and kind of pointed a really important way to improve the quality of not just our lives, but our relationships with others. We want to uh, nurture brotherhood and sisterhood. And I think you helped us do that. And I found it very instructive. I'm sure other people did. So I hope you continue writing chants and that you put this, just enlarge the space of this virtue, and so many can benefit from it. And so thank you very much. I'm not sure where you come from, and all that doesn't matter, but it was really a very instructive presentation that you made. So I think we're all the better for that.
Yeah.
Mahalo nui. Thank you, Carolyn. Mahalo, Renee. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, Mom. Welcome.
Thank you, Malia. Thank
So,
you.
Malia, I wanted to, I don't suppose you can put it into the chat right now, but maybe you could share with Sharone the way for us to listen to your recent podcast on PBS. And I'm sure that people would love to have an opportunity to listen to that. So in the absence of being able to put that in the chat right now, perhaps Sharona, you could send it to all of our participants today by email. Thank you all so much. And thank you so much, Malia. Wonderful.
You.
Aloha.
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 Bye.
It's always wonderful to hear from the host culture. Aloha.